Uh, how will the war go? Will it? Well, the war will continue. It's not just that it will last very long, it's simply a clash of cultures. That is...
Let's say Ukraine wins. What path of development will Ukraine choose?
I'm not entirely certain about the specific aspect this question refers to. If choosing between European integration and a customs union, well, of course, European integration. If we select an effective algorithm, then the economy, it will. You know, if you have an enterprise, you hire someone, a manager who understands how to optimize production, and they will do it according to common, already proven methods that have been used many times before. Yes, there are some unique specifics, particularly localization, but there are clear established models. I mean, the United States, Japan, South Korea, and the Scandinavian countries are all thriving and doing great. Well, roughly speaking, by the same economic algorithms they develop with, and political ones, political and economic. Russians frequently accuse Ukrainians, stating that we desire to develop socially. That is, to become like European countries. I think each develops within their own values, yet everything's somewhat unified. Everything is built on the foundations of humanity and upon the basis of efficiency. Something like that. So, to cut it short, eliminate corruption, combat corruption, that is, to develop the economy using the methods employed by those nations that already have a developed economy. It's quite straightforward. Here I think there's no point in going into specifics, no point. There's no need to list them. Before and even after 2013, Ukraine had better economic development dynamics than Russia. Russia is considerably larger. But Ukraine's development dynamics were proportionally excellent. Again, that is, a free market, a bunch of enterprises, a bunch of people. Even now, during the ongoing war, we somehow managed to keep things balanced. Therefore, Ukraine is poised to develop with great energy and at a rapid pace. Plus, after the war ends, there are investment opportunities open up, which are, in principle, always open. However, during a war, especially with occupied territories, there will be no strong desire for active investment from anyone. So from all sides...
So, what exactly is your question?
I asked you then, how do you think it will conclude, and how would you wish it to end?
Well, what did I want? Russia to win.
And what is a victory for Russia to you? Sorry, that's the next question. Ready to answer yours?
No, I'll answer that. Russia's victory means Ukraine's full occupation.
And Russia will stop after that? Or is this an intermediate victory? Well, yes, truly the objective has been reached. I agree, the goal that was set. And what do you think Russia will do next?
So there's no meaning in having three separate states, is there? Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia. It makes sense to establish a new kind of state, structured similarly to the Soviet Union, yet not communist, to achieve common goals and prosperity across the region, while also fostering strong relationships with other nations.
To be honest, there are some major connection problems right now. You are speaking in fragments, and at the same time the video is quite choppy. But I think I understood that you're saying something about Belarus. I gather you mean some kind of trinity, some alliance, a union state. You were talking about something like that, as I understood it. Well, everything was coming in fragments, I couldn't understand anything. So, the point is, you can take Ukraine's land, but not its people's minds. Russians judge others by their own standards. That is, there is no national idea. There is the idea of Tsarism and great power ideology, meaning there is Putin. And Russians, they endeavor to act in Putin's interest, just as he desires. They seem to believe that if Russia captures Ukrainians, Ukrainians will think Zelensky out Putin in and act for his benefit, not us. That's why we've had so many elections and Maidans. For us, the government is administration. Our ideas don't change just because a new leader comes to power. A leader is replaced because he fails to implement the ideas effectively, not the other way around. Russia, I think, imagines, we captured them, and Ukrainians will say, what can we do? We're Russians now, a single state, joining Europe with Russia. That won't happen. Every city, even a small one, will take so long to capture and with so many casualties. Right, or it will just be empty captured territories that convert into nothing. You can't make Russians out of Ukrainians. Ukrainians have proven that time and again.
Well, as history has clearly demonstrated, wherever Russia goes, everyone becomes aligned with Russia.
Well, to put it mildly, that is indeed a highly debatable point. Subjugated peoples adopting a culture doesn't truly signify acceptance of that culture. Besides, there's no special culture to speak of. Well, really.
We can talk about Crimea, for instance. It consistently sought to return to Russia. Donetsk, Luhansk. One could say that Russian forces arrived there and, simply put, compelled Donetsk and Luhansk to begin to contemplate like Russians. But why on earth did Zaporizhia and Kherson regions suddenly side with Russia?
But they didn't side with Russia. Firstly, you're taking all of this completely out of context. Even in the Russian Empire, everything was done for assimilation. Everything was done for the dilution of all those, shall we say, cultural and ethnic differences. And once again, the prohibition of the Ukrainian language. It's simply that in Crimea there were quite a lot of ethnic Russians, as they were called. And then there was also the stationing of the Black Sea Fleet. Russian military personnel and their families lived there for decades. A lot of Russians lived there. This is Russia's strategy, to bring in or import Russians, and then for those Russians to begin creating a new Russia, or to distribute Russian passports to the local population, thereby making them Russian after having first introduced Russian television, Russian culture, and the Russian agenda into the region. And of course these individuals see themselves, and indeed identify themselves, as Russians. It's not that Ukrainians wanted to become Russian, it's simply that Russia was doing everything while Ukraine was doing absolutely nothing. Ukraine didn't work on this whatsoever. Ukraine thought that Ukrainians are born Ukrainians and that's it. And that there was no need for any work, any agenda, any information campaign. But Russia was busy with it. And when Russian families brought to Crimea watch Russian TV from morning till night, of course, they support Russia. And that's Kherson. You stormed in, took it, but nothing worked. No Russians there, so you left. That's it. Kherson lives on, Ukrainian Kherson. Similarly, they were bringing people into Donetsk and Luhansk before.
A large portion of the Kherson region is currently located in Russia.
Are you acquainted with the history of Yugoslavia? Well, maybe roughly, how it was formed, how it was created.
Yugoslavia's history, yes, after World War I. Speaking of which, who will eventually win, Russia or Ukraine? When the First World War began, the 50 million strong Austria-Hungary attacked the 2 million strong Serbia. And it wouldn't even cross anyone's mind that Austria-Hungary would completely disappear in just 4 years, while 2 million strong Serbia would grow into a 20 million strong Yugoslavia.
Well, how did it appear?
That's the thing.
After the First World War, the kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes appeared. What was it called? It even had an abbreviation like that. the Serbs themselves actually constituted only about 40% of the population, yet they steadfastly positioned themselves as the leading predominant nation. Then came the Karađorđević dynasty, and then came, what's his name, Tito Broz, Jojo Josip Broz Tito, that's what he was called. He came and really started to promote the idea of Serbs to the fullest. That is, they began to partition these territories. They began to divide them in such a way that there was no single, any kind of ethno-core, and everywhere the majority was, not even a majority, there were Serbs everywhere. Everything was mixed. Everything was mixed. It's logical to make it compact here. There are many Croats here, many Slovenes here, so let's divide it. They arranged it so that everywhere there would be Serbs were everywhere. And at the moment of formation, and in the process, the Croats fought, the Slovenes fought. No one wanted to accept it. And this is the same scenario, the very same. First, the attempt to unite different peoples. Second, unite different peoples, yet one must be the dominant force. Why must Ukraine and Belarus be considered lesser siblings? What about Croatia, Slovenia? And why Bosnia and Herzegovina? Why should they be considered any less influential or less important than the Serbs? The Serbs sought to create a single mono-nation from many different nations. Immediately war erupted. Conflicts instantly arose. How did they accomplish this? By integrating Serbs everywhere. You see, Serbs were here and Serbs were there. So they insisted, this is our territory. And the Serbs are shouting, liberate us, annex us. Well, that's exactly the same. So what? It simply doesn't work. Why unite them? Let the Croats live. Let the Slovenes and Macedonians live. Why unite them? And now you say, let's have a triune nation, where Russia will also be the elder. It doesn't work. It's not viable. They're shouting, we want Russia here. Those who I just recalled, you just said something so incredibly brilliant. A Russian is simply someone who speaks the Russian language. So Russia is shouting...
That's not what I said.
Who speaks exclusively, solely in Russian. Is that not right?
A person who knows no other language.
Doesn't know.
Except Russian.
Doesn't know. First, Russia shouts. But why? Yes, listening.
In our country, 25% of the population consists of other nationalities, and every single one of them knows Russian. That means they know both their national language and Russian. And Russians truly represented the titular nation, even within the Soviet Union. They knew Russian and nothing else was needed. They did not need anything else, not even English, absolutely nothing.
And so Russia says.
But we're speaking Russian.
Speaking of Russian, Russia argues, why isn't Russian television available in Crimea, and why isn't it available in Ukraine? Why aren't there Russian schools in Crimea and Donbass for your children? They establish Russian television channels there, implement Russian schooling, and locals begin to converse in the Russian language. Then Russia claims, look, they speak Russian, so what does that make them? They are Russian citizens, and we are coming to set them free. And then, as if on command, they start shouting, liberate us. It's the same thing, and it just doesn't work. And it ends in war, bombings, and deaths. Well, they're just plain maniacs, ordinary maniacs. I think we've lost him for good this time. I think that's probably. And that's good. Once again, we're concluding on quite an aesthetic note, folks. A Russian is someone who speaks and knows only the Russian language. Where you hear Russian, soon they'll shout, this is Russia, we are Russians. So when you hear the Russian language spoken, my friends, you know exactly what needs to be done. Alright, so let's keep going now.